Okay, everyone. It is 1 o'clock on the dot. Thank you for joining our 2 hour webinar titled So Your Listing Hasn't Sold, Now What? Rethink, Reposition, and Relaunch. We know the market is shifts, and we want to make sure that everyone is prepared using all the resources possible, but also get to hear from some top producers, leading leaders, and industry leaders as well. With that, today's agenda, we're going to first start off focused on assessing your listing, right? What needs to change? Is the price too high? Is the paint need to be different? I'll have two office leaders do a panel for that. Then we're going to move on to creating motivation for buyers and sellers with Priority Home Lending. Next, focused on relaunching the listing. And this is all about marketing from Zillow Showcase, Canva, Boost, but also how are you holding your open houses? Next, how to have the hard conversation. And so this is about price reduction. Not only that, but what market research is available to you to provide to your sellers. And last but not least, we'll have a little live Q&A. If you have any questions, feel free. Go into our next slide, just some housekeeping. Of course, all you know on Zoom here, this meeting is being recorded. The recording and all resources will be sent in an email afterwards. So feel free, you can take screenshots if you'd like, but all those resources will be available after. Again, this meeting is being recorded and it will be sent out. Feel free to ask questions in the chat throughout the session. We have a couple leadership monitoring the chat. And again, we have that live Q&A with presenters at the end of the meeting. We might run over a few minutes with that, but again, the chat is always open if you have any questions. Before we begin, Lennox Scott, I believe you are on and wanted to say a few words.
Yes, well, thank you, Savannah. Just a couple of opening comments. First of all, Savannah, thank you for organizing and creating this seminar. And I want to say thank you to our presenters today for sharing your key concepts to help our skill mastery during this market. Great timing for this seminar. Just 2 years ago, we had a frenzy or extreme frenzy market. Today, we're at overall strong and in the mid-price ranges in many markets, very strong. Then we're seeing in the luxury, maybe healthy, and a few of them are just selective buyer activities. But over the last 5 weeks, I've noticed there's been almost a little softening. So there's going to be a greater need for some of the key concepts in this seminar going forward for that. But here's the good news. We have 3 months ahead of this prime time real estate market, August, September, and October, to make the adjustments today to help our sellers move forward in today's market. So that's the good news. And also in today's seminar with this, we're going over skill mastery, and that skill mastery leads to some great affirmations, some positive affirmations. Walk in solutions, walk in the positive outcome, walk in confidence, and walk in joy. So, Savannah, I'm looking forward to today's seminar. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Lennox. And just a reminder for those who just hopped on, this meeting is being recorded. We will be sending it out. And also, we have a little special contest that we're going to be doing. So if you have your video camera on, you will be entered to win a $25 gift card. I believe that'll be Amazon or Starbucks. So get this camera on, get engaged, and we'll go ahead and get started here today. So the first part of you have a sitting listing. What are we going to do? We got to diagnose the listing, understand why the listing is stagnant. And to do that, today we have two amazing office leaders for a little Q&A panel, Israel Hill and Tiffany Wilkerson with our Portland Central and Ashland Medford offices accordingly. With that, if you guys both can unmute, I'm going to go ahead and ask you a few questions. First, thanks for joining. First up, what is the biggest mistake agents make when assessing a listing that's not selling?
Who wants to start?
I'll start personally. So Israel and I, we definitely see things a little different. I'm what they would call a data doctor. I monitor data online like you wouldn't believe. I like to look at numbers because for me personally, it helps having conversations with your seller and with the agents when you have a little bit of information to go forward. I think one of the biggest mistakes agents have a tendency to make is immediately assuming that the price is the problem. Now, we obviously, we all know it's hard to market past price, but assuming the problem is price without diagnosing like the full buyer journey, price is sometimes only often the issue. So agents should definitely determine whether buyers are failing to see the listing, failing to click on the listing, failing to show the listing, whether they see it in person and decide the value isn't there. Each of those problems kind of requires a different solution, in my opinion. So it's figuring out ultimately what the problem is first, and then figuring out a solution that we can try to get more energy towards it.
And I wouldn't say I mean, I like data as well. I just
Mhm.
make someone else run the numbers, right? So it's like I don't want to use my time necessarily. I mean, Maddie's going to talk later. I usually have her dad, and I'm just kidding. I have Doug in the office. I have other people run the numbers, but I agree the data. I do agree with Tiffany that the biggest mistake that agents do is thinking the only thing they can do is adjust the price. If we lead with we need to lower the price, it puts the seller on the defensive. The seller hired us for our knowledge and our expertise. We selected a price together, right? Maybe they had more influence than we wanted in that sometimes. And if we just start cutting down the price, so that's the first one. So my feeling is the biggest mistake we make is saying we got to lower the price. Like Tiffany, I want to know where does it sit in the peer report with everyone else selling? How many people are looking at it, who's walking it, how many showings are we getting, what's the feedback, and put all of those things together as well. And of course, is it going to be price at some point? Yes, but there's going to be a number of things which I think we talk about in this. There's going to be a number of things we can do as well before we have to go to price.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just, before refreshing the listing, diagnose the market. The best feedback agents can get is the market itself. The market will guide you. It will give you the answers. And so we have to listen to the best resource we have, which is the market. So it's a lot of information you can get from that if you just know what you're looking for.
Amazing. Next question. A listing has been sitting on the market for, let's say, 70 days. What is the top 5 things you evaluate to assess why it hasn't sold?
The first thing I want to know is when's the last time you went by the listing, especially if it's vacant, right? I have 8 clients, in the office. Agents come up and say, "My listing's not selling. My listing's not selling." So when's the last time you went over there? They're like, "I don't know." When I listed it, let's go walk it. We drive over there. The grass is a foot tall. Weeds are everywhere. It smells like dead rats. I mean, like you can't have any of that, right? So are you taking care of it while it's vacant along the way? That's the first thing I do. Like go through as a fresh buyer, right? And walk through the listing again and see how does it look now to the day you first put it on the market.
I actually have a list of like top 10 things I have agents look at, even like a
She's an overachiever like
sheet.
that.
That's what I do. So, first one being pricing and competitive positioning. So, number one, focusing on like running a fresh comparative market analysis, not just simply revisiting the original CMA. So, that's really, really important to dive into. And I know Israel does that too, because him and I have discussed that. New listings that entered after yours, that, pending and sold properties since the listing day, all of which is very important. Number two, I would say, is online performance and first impressions. So diving in, looking at views, low showings, like buyer activity, offers that fail, what's ultimately driving that. Number three, I would say, is showing activity and buyer feedback. Number four, physical presentation and buyer friction is another one. And then number five, actually, marketing outreach and listing accuracy. I've got 10, but I would say those are my top five that I definitely like highlight, looking at from the top to the bottom.
I thought we were going back and forth on these. So I appreciate, I love that list. I'm just going to add a couple as well, right? The other thing I like to do is actually look at today what the interest rate is and what a buyer what a profile looks like on how much that house is today, right? Interest rates are very volatile. They go up, they go down, change. If you've had a listing for, 70 days, right? You're sitting right now at the highest interest rate you've seen, right? It went up again today. So what's the payment shock for that person? And depending on how high where we are in there, as far as who's the buyer pool in the area, well, what's taking place in the area, what's the job shifts, what's moving, who is our buyer? So we look at that as well. I know Chris is going to talk later about how we balance that out, but then I go back with my sellers and say, okay, could we offer a credit? Could we do this? Could we do that? Here's some other strategies, right? Because this is our limited buyer pool. And I think that starts with doing another CMA, like Tiffany said at the first thing, doing a fresh CMA to look at the property right now, not like it was 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And I apologize for my internet. That is a real background. So I'm sorry if it lags
You're
out.
all good. Tiffany, did you want to share the 5 others? You're leaving us in suspense here.
I mean, a lot of it's just those are the top five, really. And then everything else is a variation of what to do in those five circumstances, like what to focus on. So,
Love
I
it.
mean, yeah, if you wanted to, I mean, I'm happy to kind of go over some of this, and I'm happy to even send my notes to the entire group of like what I do in a specific sequence. I mean, for instance, number four, being physical presentation and buyer friction, a lot of that is curb appeal, it's lighting, it's temperature. I mean, like Israel said, I mean, when was the last time you physically went into the house? If it's been on the market for that long, like how, if you next time you show up and you're like, oh, cool, the sellers turned off their water. Like, great, all the grass is dead. Like, you had no idea. I mean, they've just let the place go. Or it's, I mean, there's just so many things where we have to definitely revisit on occasion to ensure that everything looks good. Yeah, and I'm happy to share all these notes that I have for sure.
And as get the same thing as the season changes, right? Is the air
Yeah.
conditioning on? Is it set to the right amount? What can you do? What else can you do to the house to refresh it? If you've had a lot of showings and you've had a lot of open houses and it's vacant, it might be time to have the house professionally cleaned again, right? I know we do that on a regular basis, and that's part of like walking through the house with fresh eyes, right? If it's been sitting there for a minute and seeing, because you may remember it when the sellers had it ready to sell, right? It was market right day one, right? And they felt that way, and then they've been gone, and now it just needs to be refreshed because the buyers are not getting the same feel when they walk in.
I love it. And do either of you recommend maybe, calling a broker friend or two and walking through it together? Does that work? Does it impress sellers? Talk more about that.
I mean, I can, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I
we start. Oh, go ahead.
No, you're
Go ahead.
fine. Yeah, it's
Go ahead.
like I said, the biggest thing for me personally is the market data, and that's really what I rely on. But it is really nice when you do have other brokers like peer groups that I think Israel could probably speak to, tours, broker opens, and a lot of that is nice to retain that feedback in order for that to be a conversation with the seller. So when you have market data, you have some ideas, and you have also broker feedback on all, when you have combine all that, it's a very powerful conversation that can really help you.
Mhm.
We do a regular office meeting where I encourage any agents that want to share a stale listing and basically put themselves up to get roasted on it, and let's talk it through. And it's very helpful, I think, to get other people's perspective on that. And so we'll start. Sometimes we'll do that in live at the house, but oftentimes we can do it based off the photos and go through the house and pick things here and there that we notice, just to get another set of eyes on it. You think about it, a lot of agents weren't around last time we had inventory stacking like this, right? So
Mm.
2009, 2010, we had to do a lot of these things that we haven't had to do in a long time. Since 2012, basically, we haven't had issues with this much inventory in certain areas. And so it might be a fresh conversation to have. The good news is things are still selling, things are moving. The question is, how do you make sure you're in that basket? So we also review with our sellers the weekly that comes out on Saturday morning. That's a key concept, and we talk about it each week in the sales meetings as well. But you have to be ready. If you're if it's even a hotter market and 38% are selling that first month, well, that means the other side of the coin there, 52 didn't. So there's a good chance that you're in that 52, 62. I went to
Yeah.
public school. So you're on that other side, right? So you're sitting there, and the question is, what are you going to do? Like, there's a good chance you're in that position. So what do you do to make the changes? I
Mhm.
think staying on top of it, not ostriching. So sometimes you're just like, you put your head in the sand. You're like, I don't do anything. And this is where the ninja concept of the client care call every week to have a conversation. The thing about the client care call, not only does it keep you connected with the client on a regular basis, um, you you're going to be embarrassed if you didn't do anything over the last week to try to get it sold. So it
Mhm.
keeps you working and motivated on finding other options and ideas and things like that. And one of the things we work with on our team is, again, price is the last step. We try to do everything we can before price. And whether that's reverse prospecting, whether or not it's going in, we're going to talk about repositioning listing, but reverse prospecting, looking in the area, calls to other brokers and other companies, what's moving, what's not, whatever, making those connections. We're trying to do whatever we can. And that weekly call puts accountability with you to have that conversation with your client. And then it's not out of the blue. Like, I haven't done anything they haven't heard from you in 6 weeks. And you're like, well, we got to lower it 100K.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's a
Mhm.
hard conversation to have.
Absolutely. I think that goes to, great for our next question. Would you recommend a price adjustment versus improving the listing presentation?
Recommending a price adjustment, I usually recommend when the listing is receiving substantial views but few showings.
Mhm.
Buyers are repeatedly saying that they can find stronger alternatives in the same price. I recommend a price adjustment when the data basically is showing that the buyers understand the property but do not agree with the value proposition. So, again, if competing homes are receiving offers and ours isn't, the market is clearly telling us something. I recommend improving the presentation first when online views are like unusually low. And you can gather that information, looking at Zillow and whatnot. The primary image is weak, it doesn't really, or, it's just not, there's not a great online presentation. Photography was taken in poor weather. Here in Southern Oregon, we get a lot of smoke. Right now, we have a huge 14,000 acre fire, like right up in Shady Cove. So, all listings last week, I'm like, if you shot your house last week, shoot it again.
Mhm.
Like, here we are. So, it's things like where, I do rely on data, that kind of help me decide whether or not a price adjustment is needed or we need to improve the presentation first.
One of the things Linux brought out to us a number of times that I've always kept in my mind is that if your listing is sitting there and hasn't had any activity, you're a minimum of 5% outside of where you need to be. And we've used that as a key indicator. So it's like, if you're sitting there and your home is sitting there and getting nothing, right? You're not getting shows, you're not getting people through the door or whatever. Then I have that conversation a little bit quicker. Right. So, at the 2 week mark, 3 week mark, I'm like having that conversation and letting them know, I think this is where we are, and let me explain why, and try to get it. But I do also, same thing with Tiffany, is if we're getting, some showings here and there, we're not getting enough, and in the peer group people are, there's probably something wrong with the presentation of the property. And later on we're going to talk about things we can do, Zillow Showcase and other things, but it could be as simple as changing the front photo. So we found this is to be quite interesting, that we will do something quick and just change the front photo, because people in their natural state of sitting around on their phones, right? They're scrolling through homes and they've seen it. Oh, I've already seen that one. I've seen it, whatever. But all of a sudden it looks slightly different. They're like, oh, I haven't seen that one. Well, they have seen it, but they haven't clicked farther on it. Um, I know we had an agent in the office, had a listing that had been sitting there off and on dealing with this listing for like 6 months. They painted the door a different color and changed the photo and got multiple offers that next weekend. Right. And that's all they did to it. It just looked a little fresher on there. So I do think there's a combination in there. And I think both, you're going to have to do both things eventually, depending on it. But it really, like, the data will show, the trend lines will show how many people are looking at the house. And if you're not getting enough clicks on the house, you got to change the presentation.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So what advice, hopefully before we get to a stale listing, what advice do you give brokers to ensure that their listing is always presented in the best possible light?
Ooh, advice. I mean,
Or coaching?
coaching. I mean, I honestly recommend what I call a complete listing audit. Like, when was the last time you did a complete listing audit? And that audit can be compiled of updated comps, active and pending competition, showing activity, online engagement, buyer and agent feedback, um, market time comparisons, price reduction activity, sellers' timelines and motivations. I mean, these are all things like you really have to understand what the seller believes, what the agent is seeing, like what we're seeing in the data, and then what does the buyer experience online and in person. So doing a complete listing audit, in my opinion, gives us a lot of information that we can then take and figure out and identify the exact point of failure. Like, where are we at and what do we do? And then based on this information, you kind of like funnel it into like, based on what we know, here's what our game plan is going to be. So I don't know if that answers your question very well, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's, what I literally call it a listing audit.
Yeah.
When was the last time you did one?
And for new listings, right? It's that the seller peer group we talk a lot about. So a seller peer group is all the other listings in the
Mhm.
neighborhood, similar square, your CMA comps, right? That's your seller peer group in the neighborhood. Doing an audit on them before you list, so you know, okay, is my listing price correct? What's the timing? What can the expectations I can tell the seller? So if we are saving for 60 days, that might not be a surprise because every other seller peer group listing is as well. So kind of before we get to the sale listing, right? You got a new listing coming up. How do you make sure it's presented in the best possible light?
Yeah, so I agree with that. I think that we have the 5 rights,
Mhm.
and I'm not gonna guess. I know them, but I'm not gonna say them in case I get one wrong. But
Fair.
the idea is to try to have the house perfectly ready to go. With market ready day one is key. Um, Sometimes what's issue in our market right now is that the sellers are still focused on maybe theoretical equity they had in their mind from months past or years past, and the buyers are thinking that, well, the market's slowed enough where there's more inventory than I've ever seen, so I'm going to get a smoking great deal. Right. The other caveat that is new to this market, as we didn't have in the past cycles that we've had, but the average homeowner, right, is no longer a young person that wants to do work on a house. It's somebody that's rounding 40 that has their own hobbies, their own life, and their own career, and they don't want to spend time on a fixer. So I know, at least in the Portland metro area, we're seeing an unusual amount of homes under 350 or under 4 that are sitting there. But the homes in the 750 to 850 right in there that are dialed in, they're selling with multiple offers, right? And so, getting the seller to understand maybe this isn't the best time to do an as is sale. Let's dial the house in a little bit. Let me show you some programs that we can use. Let's put you in connection with some contractors, get some work done so that the house is, I mean, the reality is the house needs to be HGTV ready right now, in our market at least, to get the most attention on the property. So I think that is key. That's a concept that we're really watching because, again, we just don't see the stomach for wanting a fixer the same way anymore. And so, just kind of watching some of that, and realizing how that affects the market in there. But the thing is, even with you do all of that right, the seller again might be hyper focused on a price that's not the reality. And so as an agent, we are at a crossroads. Do we not take the listing, or do we take the listing? And there's different schools of thought on that. I'm of the school, and I know David Cano and I joke about this all the time, but I take all listings. Like, I'm not scared of a listing. It just means the farther you are from the price I want, the longer the contract's going to be. Right. And so you just have to be ready to work. And that's some of the reality is you're going through, because if you have, a year-long contract, which we used to do all the time, and then they came down to like 90 days or whatever but we used to do year-long contracts all the time. Nobody thought about it. And in some markets, some peer groups, that's what you need in order to get to the right. I mean, in some price points, it's just going to take that long to do it. So are you as an agent prepared and ready to work? Right. And again, it's not 2020. You can't just throw a sign up and sell it. You actually have to work. And I think that's okay. I think if you have a plan with that, and work with your team work with your office leaders on how you can make step by step do those connections, I think you can be successful with that. And it never hurts having a sign in a yard in a neighborhood, right? Because that's free publicity for you.
Yeah. And I think that's a very common, right? You're sitting on listing appointments. Sometimes you got to peel your sellers off the ceiling of the price that they want and being prepared, doing the work, having all of your market data. This is what the market is doing right now. I can't control the market. You can't control the market. But sometimes you have stubborn sellers. I remember one time a seller just wanted this price. I was like, great, it is your choice. At the end of the day, this is
Yeah.
all up to you. How about this? We'll try that for 30 days.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, I want us to bring us down to this price. Can you agree to that or have a discussion at that time? And they usually say yes because it's allowing them to be heard, going through what they want, and then having that discovery. Let's check in the market in 30 days and see how that goes.
One of my favorite lines to that is, I control the marketing, not the market.
Yeah.
So let me show you how many clicks I'm getting you, let me show you all the analytics I'm driving to the home, right? But in the end, I can't force someone to buy your house. Your house is worth what someone's willing to pay. So my job is to get eyes on the home and boots through the door. So let me show you that. And you work with that. And again, if you combo that with the ninja strategy of that weekly call, right? You're showing them. I follow the weekly call up with a weekly, what I call my trend line report, and I put all the analytics from week one and I compare them week over week as it
Yeah.
goes. And so I can show them, hey, here's where we're hitting, here's where we're missing. Let's try a home spotter ad. What did that do? Let's try a boost here. What did that do? Put those things in there, and then they get to see, oh, it's getting full market exposure. Okay, let's go to your price.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tiffany, I know you want to show us your amazing graph, but before that, I do have a kind of bonus question for you both on, I don't know, really the psychology of a broker, right? You got maybe 2 or 3 listings, they're sitting in the market. How do you get motivation to step back up to the plate, to maybe make some of these edits when time is limited, funds are limited? What would you tell a broker to help them kind of kickstart again?
I think this is a good question. Getting motivated. I mean, honestly, it's our job. I hate to just flat out say like this is what we do and this is our job and our role as experts in the industry. And they hire us for guidance on, what to do and how to handle these certain situations. And so I think sometimes people have a tendency to, especially brokers, get nervous to talk to their sellers and have these uncomfortable conversations. When in reality, I think a lot of that needs to be set at the presentation and at the listing table. So if you set
Mhm.
expectations ahead of time, like in the very beginning, I love like the seller, like the pending resale reports that come out every Saturday. I mean, we have so much information and so much data at our fingertips. And, a lot of the time it's like sitting down with them at the very beginning when you originally sit down for the listing presentation and you set those expectations. What is our plan when we have either what comes first, 14 days or 14 showings? It's like whatever one comes first, here is our game plan after the fact, after a 2-week window or after 14. So sometimes, what that number can be anything. It could be 7 showings, 7 days. That's totally up to you. But in reality, when you actually see the market and how much it declines with the opportunity to go pending after week one, I mean, the conversation about getting listings ready in the very beginning, I mean, that's part of the conversation too. In this market, highlighting, and I hate to say it, but even highlighting, the last question, highlighting things that are wrong with the property and not necessarily highlighting them in a negative way. Like sometimes that's a huge marketing tactic right there. People are not realizing we have so much at our fingertips and so much information. We can now know what buyers are searching for with AI. Like what are they searching for in a home? So how are we incorporating some of those features into our marketing remarks? And then let's say the house has a very steep driveway and we're really concerned about it. Well, the steep driveway, yes, we have a steep driveway, but we won't have these views without that kind of driveway, right? I mean, there's things like sometimes you just got to throw it all out there and roll with it. So I think a lot of it is just, people, it's lack of motivation comes when people are unsure or uncertain and uneducated. So when that happens, they have a tendency to step back because they just simply don't know what to do and what to say. But if you have set those expectations and you're confident in your conversations, usually motivation is right there at the front door. So,
And
Yeah,
practice. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I agree with a lot of that. I think that it's interesting because like Tiffany started out saying it's our job, we have to work, right? And so oftentimes I start going on the cranky old man report basically because I've been doing it now 23 years, and I say things like, back in my day we actually had to drive clients around and show them homes that we got out of a huge book, and then we had to write the offer on paper, right? So don't tell me that you don't have time to do these things for your listing. And I'll joke around with them on that. But the reality is, like Tiffany said, it's the confidence and having the conversations. If you start them at the beginning, hey, I'm going to have a weekly call with you. We're going to go over the trend. We're going to go over the market. We're going to talk about this. If you're listening in your office meetings and you're saying, oh, here's the data of the area, here's this, here's the Saturday report, you understand that data, you will talk with a level of expertise that they will, again, they hired you because they wanted your expertise. So give it to them, right? Like you don't go to the doctor and tell the doctor what you want, that what you want to hear, right? You want the doctor to say, what can I do? How can you help me with this? Right? You're not telling the doctor, no, everything's good, everything's fine, right? And they're hiring you as an expert. So just don't shy away from the possibility that you can give them the guidance they need.
Absolutely. In other words, start a conversation with your office leader and talk through that and see how you can help yourself jumpstart as well. Tiffany, do you want to very quickly in a minute time show your graph if you're able to?
I think I can very quickly. Can you see
It is loading for us.
can you see it now?
Yeah, there you go.
So this is my agents in the room have seen this, but we can go ahead and send this out too. So this is a big part of when people talk to me. I mean, I plugged in this information and I had AI just create this graph. But it's like, before refreshing, just diagnosing the actual problem is, what I've talked a lot about. So the market is giving you all the answers that you need. So don't start by changing the marketing, start by understanding the data. So again, funneling it into online activity, buyer activity, and buyer feedback. And then you can ask yourself, like, is the problem low visibility, plenty of views but few showings, plenty of showings but no offers, offers that come but don't come together? And then this is kind of my like step by step that I've kind of created over the years, what the market is telling you. So if what you're seeing, for instance, is low online views, what it usually means is buyers aren't noticing the listing, and the next step can be refreshing photos, improving cover images, and updating marketing, right? If it's, high views and few showings, price or first impression isn't connecting, you can evaluate price, curb appeal, and listing photo. So it just kind of gives a very step-by-step. And this is obviously was created years ago before like Showcase and stuff, so I could incorporate some like John L. Scott specific resources in here now. But agents have referred to this graph a lot. So just wanted to share it with everyone. And like I said, I'm happy to send all this out to everybody.
Perfect. Thank you so much, both Israel and Tiffany, for your wise words of wisdom there. And again, we'll share the notes. On to the next. We got a tight schedule, so here we go. Next up, we have creating motivations for buyers and sellers from two amazing Priority Home Lending representatives, our president, Chris Lopez, and producing branch sales manager, Mike Rocky. I'll have both of them take it away. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Savannah, and hello, John L. Scott family. Mike's going to take over the majority of this presentation, but I wanted to kick it off on our very first slide. So really follow with me because I felt like there was a ton of wisdom coming from Tiffany and Israel, and I want to share some ideas with you. So first of all, the S word in lending in my world is not 4 letters, it's actually 9, and it's solutions, right? And when we think of solutions on the lending side, it's for both sides of the equation. It is for buyers and sellers. So maybe by the time we get done with what Mike shows, I want to see if you think, I think it's natural for us to say, before you buy, get your financing solutions pre-approved. I think the biggest part we've seen in this latest market shift is for sellers, before you sell, get your financing strategy prepared, okay? So see if you follow with me that we're financing today. It is a major piece of every real estate conversation. So here's my thought to both our real estate brokers and loan officers is please do not treat it as an afterthought. I think most of us know that if we do it early and openly, we're going to come up with great solutions, the 4-letter word. Because I do find that when we discuss seller financing solutions up front, it really does create 2 things. One is pricing integrity, which is super important for you and your seller. But the second part, which is where having a really solid financing plan and a great loan officer who backs you in that plan creates confidence through the transaction. And I know on some of the phrases Lennox uses, one of my favorite is he says buying and selling in the same market. He says that often enough that I remember it just like that. And there is a rule of thumb, and I feel like this statistic is true today. 8 out of 10 sellers do become buyers again, right? So really, when you think of it, we are fully better together. And I use that phrase a lot because I think of two things: when buyers and sellers, and then real estate brokers and loan officers plan together, better decisions follow. Hands down, better decisions. So see if when Mike presents this next part, you follow my logic, which is planning and preparedness creates options. And then these options create confidence. And the last phrase that Lennox will say often is walk in confidence. And I find that we do a really good side-by-side job together when we're helping our buyers and sellers walk in confidence. So with that, Mike, I'll throw it to you to show us the 4-letter word solutions.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Well, hey, I'm Mike Rocky, loan officer, sales manager with Priority. I know some of you I don't know. Looking forward to walking you through some of the things that we're doing in this marketplace. Been in the business 25 years. I say that only because you start to see the same thing coming around, right? And so we're in a marketplace. We've been blessed to be in it longevity-wise. So we're seeing a market that is shifting a little bit to where it's not a fully buyer's market just yet. But we may get there, but there's some homes that are sitting and the data points that out. And so what we've been doing in this marketplace is coming alongside our buyers, but of course the sellers as well. And I'm going to move this forward. Let's do this. The first thing I want to show you is this is just a cheat sheet. What can your seller or buyer, how much can they have in seller concessions? It's a quick cheat sheet. I get this question a lot. The question is, hey, Mike, I just got an offer on a VA loan. They want to go 6%. Can they do that? And it's like, well, let's look at the scale, right? The answer is not just yet. No, you can do it on FHA. So my point is, this is just a quick cheat sheet we go through with all of our referral partners. We'll send this out as well. It's really helpful. We love to talk to everyone, but this is something where we all know we're trying to keep our time quick and to the point. This is just a quick cheat sheet, and we find it really helpful. So when we talk about financing from both aspects, as a buyer and a seller, this is a really great thing that we go through with our sellers and our buyers to show them the power of what does $25,000 do with regards to a buy down, approximately speaking. So if you're looking at this sheet here, the screen, and it's actually $19,500 with this buy down, you can look at the difference between a 2-1 buy down as opposed to doing a price concession. And it could be an either or proposition. This can be something that we work together on your listing, like, hey, we've come to the space where we're offering X amount seller concession. You can either take that as a seller buy down, or you can take it as a price reduction. And then we show that. And we show that to prospective buyer, because we're talking about right now, one of the biggest pieces that we're seeing in the King County market is affordability. It's been that has been the A word has been around for a long time now, 3-4 years, right? And so what we want to do is lean into that affordability piece. And again, I love what Tiffany said. She talked about when buyers or sellers are uncertain, that's human nature, fear, right? We're taught to run away from fear. And so when we don't have information and we aren't able to cognitively see it and taste, touch, I like to say brass tacks, the numbers, then we shy away from that. So what we do is we provide context, and then we provide numbers that our clients can see, both buyers and sellers, right? So that they can get to come to the understanding of what does this do to my bottom line, and how does it help me sell my home? And as a buyer, what does it do for me if I have this concession? What does it mean in real world? So we're able to do that with just a quick chart like this. I'm going to go to the next screen, and so you can see the significance of this. In the first year of a buy down, and this is at 6.75, right? Approximately where interest rates are on a 30-year fixed, you're going to get all the way down to 4.75% in that first year. Now, again, we talk to our clients about, hey, Maybe you take the $1,000 savings and you put it into Bitcoin or whatever the flavor of the day is, right? But that's the real conversations. Or maybe you take that and you put it in your child's college tuition fund, whatever that is. Those are the conversations that we're having. We're getting right down into the dirt, we call it, with our clients about what does your life plan look like, asking those questions, never assuming. I love that Israel and Tiffany were talking about that is what's the problem, diagnosing. And the only way that we can do that is by asking questions and then providing solutions. So this is one pathway, the 2-1 buy down. There's a 1-year buy down, there's 3-year buy downs. We can go through all of that, but I want to give you a quick example. So I'm going to go on to the next piece of how we utilize this with our clients. So we have a program that's called Mortgage Coach. I love Mortgage Coach. I don't know, Israel was talking about drive around clients back in the day. I don't know how I did this, my job, because I've been doing this 25 years. Like I said, back in the day, it was like, oh, another loan estimate. Let me get you another PDF. So Mortgage Coach allows us to move swiftly through numbers with our clients. This is just another example of difference between price reduction as opposed to $20,000 seller credit. What does it do for our clients? We actually build these out for our sellers as well. We'll have a conversation. Okay, what's going on with the home? We'll talk to you. I have this listing, XYZ is going on. Mike, can you build a Mortgage Coach out? Absolutely. Again, living open-handed. It's no quid pro quo. We're just here to make sure that you get your sellers in the best position possible and you move their home and they're on to the next episode. So this, again, just a basic, this is at 6.25 just to give you a different flavor, but this is our Mortgage Coach that we can change, go through with our clients, walk them through the numbers so that, again, they don't do this every day. We make assumptions. We talk about 2-1 buy downs. We're in the business. We get most of this. Our clients don't have any idea, right? And so when we don't know what we don't know, we don't know it. It's trite, but it's true, right? And so we want to lean in, slow everything down, walk them through so that by the time they get to the end, when they have to make some decisions, they're armed with information, whether it's they're out in the marketplace with you all looking at homes, whether they're, hey, talking to you about, do we do a price reduction? Got it, understand the buy down scenario. So again, allowing you to move forward with ease and comfort. So the next piece, this is just an example of what we do for our clients. So we'll break down an email so it's there so they can visually see it. We all learn a little bit different. Some of us are visual learners, want to read it. Some of us need both, like myself. I need visual and I need some walkthrough. So we'll do that as well. So again, this is just the base level. We talk to them about what the buy down is, what it means, what it looks like going forward. And then we walk them through with the Mortgage Coach. Again, armed with information, looking at what's available in the marketplace, okay? Last piece I want to talk about, there's a couple last pieces. I have a mentor, he says, when you have to say last thing, you're almost to the point where you've been talking too much. So I'm trying to keep us under time. So these are the flyers that we have. We have financing flyers. On these flyers, we can do a number of value propositions to potential buyers, whether it's comparing a sales price reduction with a buy down, whatever we want to put on here, we can customize this. It pulls directly from the MLS. Again, we can come alongside you and market your property in a fashion that's going to put your seller in the best possible position in the marketplace. So that's available as well. And then the last thing I want to talk about is the financing piece. I have 3 minutes. Anyone that knows me knows that may not be enough time, but I'm gonna try and get through it. So we have bridge loan. Okay, so you have sellers. We all have our sellers. Sometimes the things that they have in their home, they don't want to stage, may not be putting their home in the best possible light. So one of the solutions that we've been able to come alongside our sellers is the bridge loan. Allow clients to get to their next episode, buy that home, use the equity that they have. We know that we have tons of sellers with equity that we can tap into. So the bridge loan is a great product. It's very reasonable. And I think it's probably the most reasonable bridge loan in the marketplace. It's based off prime. It's 6.75% interest only. Okay, so there's not a lot of extra points or costs. There is a 1% origination fee. I do say that, but usually bridge loans are 2 or 3 points plus additional costs. So it's a really streamlined product for our clients. Second product I want to talk about is we actually have, it's select to our John L. Scott, our partnership. It's our line of credit. Okay, it's called our equity advantage. Why is it great? Well, there's no appraisal needed. You basically do a CMA for us. We use that value. You can get up to 300,000 quick cash. We can combine it with their next purchase, and again, gets them out of the home onto the next episode. So those are the things that we're leveraging. There's a couple other ideas that we have as well when we're looking at possibly moving to the next episode, whether it's using that bridge loan and then going on to the next episode or the line of credit. But again, we have solutions. Every situation is a little different, right? And so again, asking those questions, leaning in, I think, and Chris talked about it. Right now, that conversation with sellers, that Lennox, I've heard him say it so many times when he's given his presentation, buying and selling in the same marketplace. That is a huge advantage. And so when we're talking with sellers, hey, we may have to give up something here a little bit. The market is telling us this, but we're moving, and if they're a move-up buyer or move out of state buyer, whatever it is, we're going to make that up on your purchase, right? So really walking them through that and what the numbers look like. So I think that's what I got. I've kept it under time. So there you go.
Mike, Savannah, I also want to add with Mike, when you hear kind of some of the guidelines Mike throws out, what I love about our relationship together is we have flexibility. So we have made changes to loan level amounts. We've done things called fund arounds to ensure things can take place where if you feel like at times things are too grouchy out there, just keep asking because there is solutions, there is available products, and you guys are the masters of working so close to buyers and sellers, understanding the emotional piece to buying and selling, but also we can help you with the logic to closing. Mm-hmm. So having these plans, preparing, working them through creates the logic to close. So we love you guys to death. And Savannah, we just want to keep being of support. So all these materials are available if you need them.
Appreciate it. And we'll definitely add some in our recap email. Thank you so much, Mike and Chris. I've worked with both of you, not only for myself, but for clients as well. You're always so responsive, ready to go. And the tools we have available is just incredible. So thank you for that. We're going to move right along. Again, tight schedule here today. So now we're in our part 3, relaunching the listing, refresh, reintroduce, reignite the interest. And to kick this off, we are going to have none other than John Hunter, our Vice President of Broker Success, talk about something newer we had called Zillow Showcase. So with that, John, are you ready?
I'm ready. Thanks, Savannah. I think, when I was selling real estate, one of the things that came to me when I had a listing that was getting a little bit of staleness or it didn't sell right away is a sense of failure, a sense of frustration, a sense that I let the seller down because I offered a price that I thought that it would sell at. And so one of the things that we've done over the last 6 months is we've partnered with Zillow, and what we want to do is alleviate that stress for you when you go and have that conversation for a price reduction. And so I think everybody knows a little bit about Zillow Showcase. We get 75% more buyer engagement. We get 2% more higher sales price potential, and it sells a little bit faster. And so if we have a listing and we want to do a relaunch, one of the conversation pieces is we can go to the seller and we can say, hey, let's relaunch your listing. Let's price it a little bit more aggressively, but let's add on this Zillow Showcase. And we have special pricing for it. It's $200. In most markets, this would be $750, and you'd actually have to sign a 12-month contract. So it'd be a $9,000 commitment versus a $200 commitment plus the assets, the photography. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. But just as a reminder, this is a Zillow Showcase listing. You'll see that you can, the homes all around here have 7 new homes, 14 new homes. Here's the price. But a Zillow Showcase listing actually has a little JPEG next to it. This is I don't know if this is always the case, but it's kind of cool that it stands out a little bit. And then the other highlights about this is that you are featured front and center. right? And so this is not only a listing reduction conversation, a relaunch of a listing, but this is also how do we promote you, the brand, the asset, the broker, to redirect people to come to you because you have the information about the home. You know more about the home than anybody else out there. And so we want them to come to you. And so just as a reminder, so your name is going to appear here first. You're going to have a bio here that you get to expand upon, have your picture there. Your contact information is over here. It's connecting to your reviews so clients can look at this and they can see that you are the person that they want to work with. And then you have a little bit, a lot better immersive experience with regard to this showcase, kind of scrolling through photos as we go through this. And so that's really cool. Then the other thing too is if you do relaunch the listing and you do a video, you can input the video in the carousel. And so as the carousel is going through the photos, it will then come to your video. It's always the second one, the second in the carousel, and it'll showcase that home even more impressively. And so I think that's a really cool feature. This little price cut here is 100, and you see the price cut. And the nice thing about Zillow Showcase really though is the engagement that you get. And so here's a listing that was on the market for 5 days. This is the back end. This is what you get to see. And what this is the same listing on Redfin. Redfin shows it on the market, and they show that it had 4 days on the Redfin, 19 views and 1 favorite. So 19 views, 1 favorite. Zillow, because we did the Zillow Showcase, we had 1,072 views, 79 saves, and 44 shares. That is a little bit of math. I'm not sure exactly. 79 versus 1, I think that's 790% more shows and saves. And so I think the engagement there is really impressive. But what I love about this even more is that when the sellers see this, they get to see how their listing is doing compared to everybody else. And if they see that they're getting a ton more engagement, they're getting a ton more saves, and they're getting a ton more shares, they immediately start asking themselves questions like, why isn't it selling? We're getting the exposure. We're getting significantly more exposure than Redfin. We're getting significantly more exposure. We're getting 249% more exposure than the next listing. We're getting 320% more exposure on saves than the next listing. And we're getting 430% more shares than the next listing. Why isn't our house selling? And then that's the conversation that can definitely lead into pricing. And so when you do talk about pricing, a lot of times what I always hope for is that I would provide a weekly seller report to the seller, and the sellers would come to me and say, I think we need to lower our price, as opposed to me having to go there and that shame of, hey, let's lower the price, let's lower the price. And so, but the other nice thing about this, and especially in the relaunch strategy, is it shows you where the engagement is, right? So in this case, the engagement came from Seattle. This was a Kirkland listing, so it's just over the water. You see that the engagement came mostly from Seattle. And so you can do a targeted campaign to those particular cities. And so part of your relaunch strategy could be, hey, we're going to do a boost campaign to these particular areas because this is where we're seeing the buyers engage with your listing. And so whether you do that with the top 3 or maybe the Seattle, Bothell, and Redmond, that I think that becomes a conversation piece. And then the other big thing about this is when you do a price reduction, you get a ton more email engagement. And so when you do that price reduction, you'll see a spike in the email engagement, because what it does is that everybody that has liked it, everybody that's looked on the property, everybody that has shared the listing, as long as they have a Zillow account, they'll also get an email, and email will go directly to the consumer, a consumer that you may never, ever know existed out there. It goes to the consumer, and the beautiful thing about being to the consumer is that it re-engages their thoughts. And I love what Israel said about changing the photo. So if you change the photo as you do this price reduction, you do this relaunch, you do the Zillow showcase, and you change the photo, it's showing up as if it's a new property that they've never seen before. And so I think that's really, really impressive and really cool. But I was just blown away based on this 1,072 views versus the 19 views on Redfin. So, and then this is a testimonial from one of our brokers down in Oregon. And she had sent us this unsolicited. Mind you, I did solicit for a lot of feedback. But one of the things that I thought was really impressive is this line here. Two of the couples who toured the home during the open house commented how great the listing looked on Zillow Showcase. One couple even pulled up Zillow Showcase on their phone to show me something. With only 10% of the listings being featured on Zillow Showcase, it's a great point of differentiation from the competition, especially for high-end listings. And then many thanks to Lennox for getting the $200 rate. But here's the last thing. I've had one direct communication from someone through Zillow Showcase and was able to pick them up as a buyer up to 850 and a seller a 650. So total sales of 1.5 million with no referral fees, which I think is really cool. That is really, really cool. But this being said, I wanted to ask Shy Bundy from our Renton office. She had a listing that was a little stale. I just wanted to ask her to tell us a little bit about the story and how she implemented Zillow Showcase.
Sure. Thanks, John. I did. I have had a stale listing. It was hiring 2.75 million. And my seller is a wonderful analytical doctor who was very attached to his price. And Zillow Showcase launched, and I really wanted to personally go through it because I felt I could help the brokers better if I walked the process first. And so I did that, and it didn't sell the house, but it sparked this great activity as far as showings and that kind of concern. And then with the performance report, it gives kind of a line of this is the view and exposure that your home got compared to the rest of the homes in your neighborhood. And my seller called me and said, oh, wow, it looks like we better reduce the price. And I hadn't even asked yet because I was like, okay, we'll do the Zillow Showcase and wait, 14 days and he can really see the effort that I'm putting in. And it made a huge difference. And like John said, when you really compare it to Redfin, the exposure is huge. So whether you're taking a listing or trying to get a price reduction, I think this is one of the greatest tools we have.
Awesome. Thank you, Shy. Appreciate that. And with that, I'm going to hand this back to Savannah.
For maybe those, John, if you're quickly able to log into My Desk and share your screen too. I've never done a Zillow Showcase before. What do I do? Is there an email coming out to invite me to the program? Can you talk through those steps?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to share my screen again. So let me share screen. So if you don't have you should have received an email inviting you to Zillow Pro. If you haven't done it yet, your link has expired. So you just have to email zillow@johnolscott.com and we will resend that email. But once you log in, you will come into admin setting. So you'll go to listings. Okay. So you'll be here and it depends on how many listings you have. But you're probably not going to have any, but you would just add a listing, input the address, then seller name, the listing agent, your name, and I'll just do 11040 Main Street, and then add listing. Oh, oops. I'll just do Kingston. And so here you're going to come to this page. And none of these links will work as of yet, but you'll do order showcase in media. And once you order that showcase in media, you'll click your payment method. You'll input your payment method. You get to choose your photographer. And so if you just want to order media, I'll just show you how to just order media. You'll choose your photographer, in which case it's going to give you photographers that they think work in that particular area. So if you put Olympia, Washington, you're going to see the Olympia photographers. If you have your own photographer, you could choose another photographer, or you can choose to have yourself upload the media as well. But you do need the media. So this is a two-part process. There is the $200 charge for the Zillow Showcase. to highlight that particular listing. And then you still have to order the media, and the media has to include the 3D Zillow showcase. And so ask your photographer, if you have a photographer that you love and they don't do the Zillow 3D showcase, let us know. Email us at zillow@johnlscott.com, and we will connect them with Zillow so that they can then start doing this for that marketplace as well. And so super easy. It does take a few days. And so because this has been such a successful program for Zillow, what we found is that once you send the link out to the photographer and the photographer does the shoot, so let's say they do the shoot today, they upload it back into Zillow today, which is a Tuesday. You can expect that Zillow showcase to take 24 to 72 hours to generate. So it could take up to Friday to generate that showcase. And so just make sure that you're doing this ahead of time. So if you're doing a price drop and you're saying, okay, let's do this strategy. We're going to drop our price next week, Thursday. We're going to do a seller listing launch on Saturday, Sunday. And you'd want to make sure that photography is done by Monday of next week. And I think a lot of this, I'm just going to throw this out there. I'm going to do this with one of our brokers, but one of our brokers' strategy is to launch a listing on Saturday, do the seller listing launch, do the early entry for neighbors from 12 to 1. And then they do the 1 to 4 open house. And then they do another open house on Sunday. And then they do another open house on Tuesday from 5 to 7 p.m. after work. And what they found is they sold a listing without an agent ever showing the home, because the buyers are coming to the open houses directly, and then they get to see that second showing on that Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening, to cement the fact that they like the house. So a lot of buyer behavior has changed, and so that I thought that was a really great strategy. And we'll have a little show. We'll send a little email out there once we do the video testimonial on that.
I love it. Thank you so much, John. And yeah, that's I think that works, especially when it's a little hot outside and the sun is shining and doesn't get dark till about 9 p.m. So that's great. Sharing my screen here. I put it in the chat to have more information on Zillow Showcase. There's a whole video we can watch on all the how-tos. But again, we have that email, zillow@johnlscott.com, if you have any questions. Okay, going on to our next item, and this is social media and Canva marketing refresh. So we all know social media is important now more than ever with all of the AEO, and that's the answer engine optimization. Meaning when someone looks up best real estate broker near me, how is your name going to be at the top of that list? Well, that is also true for listings as well. We have created kind of a 101 social media checklist, letting you know all about the channels, profiles, content, forms, frequency, audience, and so on, that will send this out and link it out. But if you have no idea about any social media, this is a great resource. Or if you want to use some of the tools we have, definitely check this out. Focusing on the listing, we of course have Canva, and they have a great AI, Canva AI. In addition to all of the brand templates John L. Scott has created for you to easily use. So Canva AI, just a little 2 notes on it. It is one of the most used AI platforms in the world. I think they said the magic tool is used by over 27 million people already. That's incredible. Those some great numbers, and they do it because it works and gets better every day. A little on some AI. So you can go straight to click over here, Canva AI. And I'm showing this because maybe you want to type in, hey, I have a price reduction for my listing, or I have a brand new listing. What is a 5-day plan that I can do to market this listing? And it will give you a pretty good response. I typed this in earlier to make sure we had it ready to go. I said, I have a price reduction for my listing. Give me a 5-day marketing plan for new price, social media, flyers, open house, so on. It gave me this 5-day plan, goes over social media, email blasts, MLS updates, story posts, and so on. Now, I don't know about you, I looked at this and was a little overwhelmed. I was like, okay, that's a lot of activities. I got 3 other listings, I got buyers to show, we got inspections. I want to reduce this down. And I'll get to some of our brand templates in a second, I promise. But one trick I always use for AI is I let AI prompt itself. So instead of me just saying I have a price reduction for my listing, I ask AI to create a prompt so then I can get exactly what I want. Now I'm going to show you how we do this. So let me go to Copilot. Every single John L. Scott broker has a Copilot account. Just make sure you log in with your John L. Scott email. There is an agent called Prompt Coach. Oh, sorry guys, I've got a lot of tabs open, so it's not too happy with me right now. We'll go ahead and get logged in real quick. I'm going to skip that for now. So basically, type it into AI and say, give me a prompt for this request. So I did that, and this is the prompt it gave me. So instead of me just saying, hey, I need a 5-day marketing plan for a reduction in list price, it created this multi-paragraph instructions for AI to create a plan for me. That's pretty cool. I didn't have to do anything. I just had to type, copy, paste, and press submit. Now, the response it gave me was a little bit different, right? Versus my first one of a couple just paragraphs here. I got a nice chart of information. I got 3 activities a day. It gave me a time estimate for each activity, which is great, what the platform is and what a content idea is. Not only that, it actually created all of the content for me after. So it says, okay, you need to do social media post. Here's the caption. Of course, I have to type in the name or type in the address, the beds and baths, and so on, but it gave me all of that without me asking for it. Pretty nice. It goes into investor opportunity angle, gives me a couple of different ones, storytelling, emotional. So lets you choose, you be the deciding factor. I created an email template for buyers, local agent email template. Of course, you want to get that agent e-flyer out there. Or if you're using Zillow Showcase, it does it already for you. Flyer concept, some different ideas, and then pro tips for maximum impact. When is the best time to post on social media? Should be using stories daily, tag the location, just some tips. So I just want to highlight Canva AI. It can be really useful. If anything going on in your life that you need marketing for, maybe it's to yourself. You can say, hey, take a look at this website, or how do I increase my AEO? Anything like that, it can help you answer. But I quickly want to go over our different brand templates that we have at John L. Scott. So we have brand templates, and it looks like this. We have pre-designed materials, flyers, postcards, social media, and on ready to go for you to make it easy. And not only that, when you open one of these brand templates, we have an amazing partner called Bear Printing, and they have created this wonderful app that connects to our MLSs. So you got to log in for the first time, but after that, you just get to go to browse listings. I apologize, I don't have any active listings currently, but I have some sold that I can show you how to do it. And it has all the information that you need for this listing. So I'm going ahead and clicking on the images, and I can just drag it over. And we can drag over photos, but we can also do the text. We can also do the address, the price, just click and dragging over. We can do, let's see, it does some great bullet points for me. If I had bullet points, we'll go ahead and click it here. Looks like that. We have a full description. All of that, you're just clicking and dragging things over. This is a really useful tool when you're trying to get things on the go, trying to have a new price reduction flyer, postcard, social media. It's all there ready to go and connected to the MLS. That is a really powerful tool for you. Also want to show you quickly, sorry, Nicole, a little Ask Canva AI for the flyer. So in a design, you can say, we have this multi-paragraph description. Please reduce the size of this text description. Perfect. And it'll work on it and reduce the size probably in half. You can also click on Magic Write and have the same thing, right? Shorten this up, it will generate a shorter one. Click replace, and it's already replaced. Obviously, you got to mess with some sizing, but a wonderful tool for you to use, ready to go, connected to the MLS. Okay, with that, we get to hear from Nicole Cortinas, our Director of Digital Marketing Strategies on Boost Ad. Nicole, take it away.
Awesome. Yeah, so just diving right in here. I think a lot of you are familiar or least heard of Boost by now, but it really is a great option for driving additional exposure and engagement for listings through digital advertising. In fact, for as many Boost ads that are run as new on market or open house ads, I saw that there are just as many run for price reduction or active listing purposes as well, which tells me that our brokers are viewing Boost as not only a listing launch tool, but also a re-engagement tool. So let me go ahead and share my screen so I can tell you a little bit more about the Boost listing ad program. All right. Oh, and there's something weird with the audio. Let me see. I need to mute someone.
I'm working on it. Sorry.
Okay. Thanks, Savannah. Cool. So I'll go ahead and get started. All right. So just to give you a little more background, so Boost is essentially John L. Scott's go-to solution for digital advertising. It allows agents to run a variety of ads on Facebook, Instagram, the web, and Nextdoor, not only for agent branding ads, but also, of course, listing ads. And with the listing ads, agents will reach a unique pool of buyers in up to 5 different locations. The system automatically targeting those who are searching for similar homes online, as well as an option here to upload your relationship database for even greater reach as well. So just to remind everyone, every John L. Scott broker has their own Boost account. To access this account, all they have to do is log into MyDesk and then click on the automated Boost tile like you see here on the screen.
We can't see anything.
Oh, it's not sharing my screen. My bad. How about now?
All good. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So that is where you can go to access automated Boost like you see here on the screen through MyDesk. So far through the program, so over 60% of John L. Scott brokers have used Boost in some capacity. Most of them actually repeat users, running a total of over 21,000 ads, if you can believe it, with an average click-through rate of about 13%, which if you know anything about online engagement, it's actually really good compared to industry average, which tends to float around the 1% mark. So all that to say, we're really happy with how this program is assisting our brokers with their digital advertising needs, especially their listing ads. And as you guys can see, Boost offers quite a variety of ads for your listings life cycle. So again, not only new on market and open house specific ads, but also price reduction and active listing ads. The price for those starting at $49 for 2,700 to 5,000 views generated over the course of 7 days, which is actually cheaper through John L. Scott than what you'd be paying directly through the vendor as well. And if you want to take your strategy to the next level, the program also offers video listing ad solutions, which is super important considering that our video ads do see over double the views and engagement on average. So with the video options, brokers can upload their own custom video, or if you don't have a video to upload, Boost can actually make a video motion graphic for you by stitching together your listing images and marketing remarks, just like you see here on the screen. So pretty powerful feature there. In terms of pricing, the video listing ads start at $124 for 6,800 to 12,600 views generated over the course of 7 days. Again, they're seeing over double the views and engagement compared to the still image versions. Oops. And then as I was mentioning earlier, so when it comes to the audience, Boost allows you to choose up to 5 different locations, which can be a zip code, it can be a city, a county. In fact, so one of our office leaders, Aaron Bird, actually recently was using Zillow Showcase data, kind of like John was showing earlier, to help inform where he was getting the most traffic, and then use that data to help create a more targeted ad based on the cities that were driving the most activity. So kind of just a fun tidbit there. And then within the locations, the system will, again, target a unique pool of buyers for your listing. And in that, automatically prioritize a specific profile of buyers whose home preferences match your listing criteria. So again, that's looking at price range, bed count, bath count, square footage, location, property type, lots of different factors. So pretty advanced audience technology being leveraged. Beyond that, so Boost does offer a couple seller features. So we do have like a flyer you can provide to your clients that shares how Boost is going to market their listing, reports that we can set up to send directly to your seller about the performance of the ad, and even seller targeting options where we can use their name and contact information to increase the chances of them seeing the ad while they're online as well, which is really impactful. As you can see, we continue to receive positive feedback from our brokers on the Boost program for listings. So there's this one here from Marvin Yamad. It says it's a no-brainer for me to boost listing ads on all my listings. Honestly, believe I'm doing my sellers a disservice if I don't. Have this one from the Craig team that says, with homes being on the market longer, we will run a video boost ad to get added exposure. Marketing is targeted to areas you want the exposure in, runs for a week, definitely worth the added dollars. Seller is also very happy to see the added exposure, something to definitely consider. And then I also love this one from the Rodiker Group. It says, we've been very happy with the Boost advertising program and regularly use it as a valuable tool with sellers whose homes need renewed activity. They're consistently impressed by the reach and exposure the campaign provides, which reinforces the value of our marketing strategy. This year alone, we've received several direct buyer calls through the campaign that have converted into active clients, making Boost a valuable asset for both our sellers and our business. So I think those really sum it up nicely. Again, speaking to Boost is not only that listing launch tool, but again, as a re-engagement tool. So there you go. So that's pretty much what I had for you guys as far as Boost goes. Hopefully that gives you a better understanding of the Boost system and all that it can do to actually help drive additional listing exposure and engagement. Savannah's going to include also, we have a step-by-step tutorial for setting up a listing ad. But yeah, if you're interested or have questions, want to get started, you can also reach out to boost@johnlscott.com and we will be happy to help. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nicole. And again, that Boost ad, you can access it through My Desk. So go on there, all the information, but of course, Nicole is happy to help as well. Okay, moving right along. Thank you, everyone. Now we're going to have talk a little bit about open house strategy. So I know we talked about 3 programs that do have a cost to them, but it's not all about paying to play every single time, right? We had a great conversation with Israel and Tiffany on, okay, let's look at our listing. Let's do this marketing research. How do we pull that information up? And I think an important part about relaunching a listing is that open house strategy. Is it those conversations that aren't quite connecting that maybe is the reason why offers aren't coming in? We have Maddie Landers here, a broker from our John L. Scott Portland Central office, to do a little Q&A. So Maddie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course. Happy to be here.
Perfect. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. First question. What's one thing that you've added to your open houses over the years that has significantly improved the results?
I would say kind of the biggest driver for me has been changing my conversation approach to be more like education and value add oriented. So like, for example, if someone's coming through and they come up to me and say like, hey, what's that like smell coming from the basement, or what's, happening under the sink over here? Instead of just, answering or saying that I don't know, I take it as an opportunity to say like, how familiar are you with the inspection process? And, I think that leaving an open house, hearing about, the costs and the timelines involved with that is going to resonate a lot more than just answering a question. And kind of in regards to, this whole seminar, if it is your listing, in opening up that conversation and, teaching someone about the steps to get there, you've now given them a path forward to an issue, instead of, maybe highlighting something that's wrong with the house.
I love that. Yeah. Having information value add forward items first. Next up, second question. How do you collect visitors' information and convert open house traffic into actual business?
Yeah, I would say my approach is very casual. I try to talk to everybody as they come through, and then as people are leaving, it's usually just a pull out of my phone and, putting in their contact as if they are a friend. That's also one thing that, like kind of in regards to the first question that I've added over the years. I think it's a lot easier to hand out a business card and hope for the best, but to, put yourself out there and ask for contact information and secure it yourself. You're now putting the power in your hands to turn that into actual business, and you have the opportunity to follow up.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
especially when you are doing, it is your listing, you're doing those seller reports and having detailed information, asking for that feedback. That's an easy way to ask as well.
Yeah, I think on your own listings too, I think it's if someone is saying that they're working with a real estate agent, don't let the conversation end there, asking for their agent's name and agency. Now you have an agent to follow up with who had legitimate buyers coming through your open house.
Absolutely. What is your follow-up routine and timeline after an open house for those people coming in?
Yeah. So I would say if I'm getting someone's phone number, my next break in visitors, like whether it's during the open house or immediately after, I'm sending a text with my digital business card as well as a thank you, and then trying to kind of pull something personal from our conversation that resonated with me. Or if I got their agent's information, sending a text or a phone call to see if their buyers had any feedback. After that, what I found super effective just within the last like handful of months that I've started doing is beyond the text message that next week, I'll give them a phone call. And I found that it's a lot harder for people to say no when you have them on the phone. So that has translated into some actual businesses calling. And then, if they're not getting back to me after that first hello, I will continue to reach out anytime like a similar house comes on that makes me think of them, or something in my day-to-day that strikes a chord. I'll let them know that they cross my mind, and I will continue to do that basically until they tell me to stop. I have plenty of threads where I'm just talking to myself, but yeah, continue to touch. And I have someone that I've been following up with for a year now, and they finally just responded and said, "Hey, like, so happy to hear from you. I'll reach out soon." So they've been getting them.
I love that. And yeah, I've had a couple other brokers say that years prior too, right? It's the consistency of follow-up, because a listing is not just an opportunity for your sellers. And of course, you're trying to find that buyer for that seller, but it's also opportunity to expand your business as well. And having that follow-up of, oh, maybe you might have another listing in the future. That can be that solution, working with that buyer. And even, okay, maybe you personally don't want to do open houses every single weekend. That's okay. Talk to the brokers in your office, talk to the brokers in a different office in your area, and they'll be able to happily have that proof. It's right. It's the a little bit more rewards on the work that you're doing, right? You're expanding, you're doing those open houses, you're getting in front of people and trying to turn that house over. So that's wonderful. Okay, last question. What's one piece of advice you give a broker hosting an open house for a listing that's been sitting on the market?
I think one big challenge with those open houses is simply just getting buyers in the door. If something's been sitting a while, sometimes you go and, you get no one. And so I would say just don't stop being innovative. I have a listing that I'm going to be holding open this weekend that has been on a long time. It's a condo, and I'm preparing right now a mailer to send to rentals in the area, and kind of tying back to that education first approach. Instead of featuring just the property and saying like, hey, here's the price, come and see it, I'm going to take the angle of come take this opportunity to ask a broker about, making the switch from renting to buying. And, in the meantime, of course, see this great condo too. But, opening up the dialogue for someone to come start that conversation if they've been thinking about it, and going out and, finding buyers instead of waiting for them to come to you. I would say another thing is if someone comes through your open house that has been sitting a while and you're not really feeling like they're a match for that property, I would say don't completely write them off. I had an open house recently where I had some folks through that simply were just home enthusiasts. They were there to, enjoy the charm that was this mid-century modern. They're not actively in the market to buy, but I went through my steps with them as I would with anybody else, with getting their information, following up, thanking them for, their time and the great conversation. And I have a listing appointment tomorrow with her mother-in-law, who I didn't even know had a house to sell. So
there you go. I love it. And it's, again, got a listing. Maybe you have 3 others. You don't have time to do open houses every single weekend. Tapping into this community, they have their own buyers. They have their own sphere that can really make a difference, from home selling in 30 days to 60 days, right? It's just about that awareness and reverse prospecting, right? And getting in front of people 100%.
Yeah, and just because, maybe the house isn't right for them or something you say doesn't resonate to them, that doesn't mean that they won't go share their experience with their friends who are maybe in the market, and someone may circle back. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Any other words of advice? I think you hit it out of the park.
I would just say, like, I don't know, be yourself, be confident, and like, your people, if they're coming through an open house, like, as long as you're doing that, you're going to connect with the people that you should. And I have, I think, like 6 active pieces of business coming right now from open houses. And I think that it's a real tool that you can use if you just put yourself out there and ask for that information.
I love it. Thank you so much, Maddie. I really appreciate it. We are going to move right along. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Just one more or 2 more notes on open houses. So at John L. Scott, I know we got some newer brokers in the audience here. We have an open house toolbox checklist. It may seem extensive at times, but trust me, when you need something, it's great to be prepared, than not have it at all. So here's just some ideas. General, we have yard arm toppers, riders, directional arrows, but we also have a registration area. So you got your registration books, property flyers, pens, maybe a buyer Q&A, FAQ, sorry, home seller guide, buyer guide. More information you can provide, the better, of course. Also wanted to highlight, we have a John L. Scott open house app. It's been live for a while. It does unfortunately only work with Apple products at this time, but it does connect to your John L. Scott Engage account. So very nice. Have maybe own an iPad, have it up at your open house. Someone types it in, that goes into your Engage, and there you go. It's easy contact out. In addition, I also wanted to highlight our seller listing launch checklist, but also program. So at John L. Scott, we know the best way to sell a house is to have a seller listing launch on that first weekend. You have a backlog of buyers waiting for that next home, waiting for their home to come on the market for them to see, and you got to hit out of the park on that first weekend. We all know this, of course, but here is an extensive checklist: seller prep, marketing prep, office meetings, early entry for neighbors, brokers opens, and so on. And also have a full marketing strategy guide with materials all ready to go. So if you got another listing coming up, or maybe you have a price reduction in your future, this is a great way to utilize these tools and make sure everyone knows about it. Next up, we are going to be talking about, let me share my screen here, how to have the hard conversations. And of course, I'm referring to our price reduction conversations. And the first step we're going to cover is using the resources. As we've heard many times during this webinar, John L. Scott, we have a lot of resources, almost too many, right? There's so many out there that you might not be using any of them. But I wanted to cover just a few that really bring the market data to prepare your sellers for when that conversation needs to happen. So first up, we got our, of course, 6 phases of the yearly housing cycle. And this is a great descriptor of what a typical yearly pattern for new resale listings look like. We all know this by now. If you're in real estate for a day or 20 years, you know this pattern, right? New year kickoff, new resale listings are a little bit slower. We hit the peak in the pre-summer market, continues through the summer, and then falls down in the winter. It's a great item to have in front of people. It's in our buyer and seller books, of course, to have that discussion to prepare them of what the market will be doing. And again, it just reinforces you don't control the market, but this is the seasonal patterns, and this is what I know to be true. Next up, I wanted to briefly talk, and it's been said today, right? The market has changed quite a bit. We have a weekly report that I'll talk about in a second. But looking back in 2025 to 2026, we got 287 listings in this area and 344 this year. You see the percentage of homes going pending in the first month was about in the 40s, higher 70s, and now we're in the early 30%. So there is a little step off of hotness in the market, And how are you going to have those conversations? Well, we have a report for it. It's called the Weekly. You get it in your inbox every Saturday morning, and it has this long table of numbers that takes a look at how soon does a home go under contract in week 1, 2, 3, or 4. Because we know the best chance to sell your home is in that first month. This gives a great idea to sellers, to you, to inform you, what is the market doing? What degree of hotness do we have going on here? And how should we price our home accordingly? So again, it's this full report. I know it's a lot of numbers information, but it's great to see what was happening a year ago today versus today, of course. These emails, again, come to you each Saturday morning from the email communications@johnlscott.com. If you don't see it or not see it in your spam, reach out to your office leader. We'll make sure you get set up. We do have 46 specific regions that this gets sent out for, and it has different price ranges. This report you see here has every single price range included. Next up, I wanted to highlight a tool, Trend Graphics. Raise your hands if you use Trend Graphics at all. Got a few here and there. Wonderful tool. You can access it through My Desk, of course. There's a little tab ready to go. And this is we had the weekly report for the whole market view. Trend Graphics can get very specific. So for here, I have Southern Oregon pulled up in Jackson County from $700K to just under $1 million. And we're looking at average price for sold versus sale. So as you can see, right, here's what's happening with these price ranges for sold versus those that are for sale. Quite the difference and a great explanation of what's happening in that specific county. You can add bedrooms, bathrooms, a type of home, all this information in the search criteria. It's very fun to play around with. You can also print it out, and there's so much more information. I'm not going to go all of it today, but highly recommend give Trend Graphics a look. In addition to that, that kind of goes along with our seller peer group conversation. So as I said before, a seller peer group is those homes around you, similar square footage, right? The comps of the homes around you that are also for sale. Now at John L. Scott, we have a really amazing tool called Market Insights. And it takes this seller peer group right here, and it gives someone a market insight every single month. So this is what this looks like. And you probably have already been set up on one for yourself. If not, I'm going to show you how in just a second. So the Market Insights, this one's for Bellevue, so it's a little bit bigger market. But again, the beauty of John L. Scott, we can get so granular of the criteria that other MLSs don't allow us to do, right? We can get very specific on it's got to have this parking, this amenities, this size lot, and so on. And it can be exactly what your clients are searching for or what your clients are listing their home against, right? To focus in on that seller peer group. So this is the monthly Market Insight email created from a specific saved search. As you can see, we got our new listings, pending, sold, and active inventory, very similar to Trend Graphics, but on a monthly cadence. Okay, how do you get to this? So this is done through Property Tracker. And if you've been with us for a while, you've probably heard that many times. How to get there is through Engage. So you go to your contact, click on the contact, then Property Tracker will be on the right-hand upper corner. You're going to go ahead and click Manage, and that's going to take you to a Property Tracker account. Now, to edit a Market Insights, to add it on or create a search, all you got to do is click the little edit button, as you see here on the top right-hand corner of that search. You'll just click on Market Insights on, and then your client or you will get those Market Insights every single month. We'll be sure to send a how-to video along with this, but want to make sure we're keeping the conversation going today. With that, I am so happy to introduce Shai Bundy to help us talk about the price reduction conversation. Shai is our managing broker at our John L. Scott Renton office, and I'm very excited to introduce her. Thank you, Shai.
Hi, Savannah. Thank you so much. So the price reduction conversation, right? It can oftentimes feel overwhelming and very uncomfortable. And lots of brokers I mean, frankly, they just get scared. I've done all this work to generate this lead and I converted it and I put my time and energy and money into listing this home and nothing has happened. And so there can be a lot of fear and anxiety around that. And so number one, I would say role play. Just like if you were going on a listing appointment, if you don't feel the confidence behind a price reduction conversation, role play with someone because that's going to help. So before I get into the nuts and bolts of the conversation with the seller, I think there are key components that will make this conversation much easier. I would recommend taking a layered approach when it comes to a price reduction. And it's not necessarily just about the words in the conversation, but it's also the data that you share, how you explain the market to help guide the seller through that decision. Because that's what it is. It is you delivering information and the seller has a decision to make. Now, sometimes it could be easy to say okay, I'm just going to wait another week. I'll just do the Zillow showcase, but I'm not going to broach the subject of price because I'm just not there yet. And depending on your relationship with the seller. But you have to remember that your job, your duty is to help your seller position their home for them to get the highest price and the best terms of whatever market that we're currently in. Because if you've been around a while, there are different strategies in different markets. The highest price isn't necessarily the price the seller hopes for or the seller needs. The highest price is what is going to happen in the market. Israel kind of alluded to this, but one of my favorite lines, I think I got it from Mike Ferry 25 years ago, what is the value of a property is the price a buyer is willing to pay. And I teach that, I preach it to my sellers because I truly believe it to be true. So as a professional, we can't just tell sellers what they want to hear. We have to help them understand what is actually going on in the market, not just splurt out numbers to them, but make sure we're putting some context to it because real estate jargon is like a second language to us, right? Oh, hey, seller, here's the active pendings and solds. Okay, well, what does that really mean to them? They need to understand that actives are their direct competition. And pendings, these homes seller, at their price and their condition, it caused them to generate an offer. And the solds, depending on when it's sold, might be irrelevant. It might be 6 months old. And this market is moving very quickly. So make sure you're putting things into context. Now, before we have this big conversation, again, a layered approach, in my opinion, is key. So first and foremost, since I started speaking, I've used the phrase price reduction, and I had to practice that because I don't use that phrasing. I use price adjustment. And so number one, as simple as that sounds, a price adjustment is much easier to digest. And your words matter. When people say reduction, and especially to a seller, it could feel like a loss. Like I had to reduce, I had to go smaller than what I expected. Maybe something went wrong, it feels unsuccessful. When you use the phrasing adjustment, that's like we're responding to the market, right? This is where the market is, seller, and we may need to adjust. We're aligning with the data, we're repositioning ourselves. So it doesn't feel like this lost word. The actions are similar, but the message is very, very different. And we want the seller to see this as a strategic move. Second, I think it is imperative that your sellers are getting a weekly update, one email, and one phone call. What we teach our newer brokers here is every Monday, the seller should get an email, a very specific email of what has transpired over the last week. And every Thursday, at least, they should get a phone call. So you're touching them 2 times a week. sometime in this market, and I believe someone said this, it's very easy to kind of put your head under a rock and like, I really hope I get an offer. And that's not necessarily, the most productive approach to take. But along with this weekly seller report, the messaging is going to set expectations for yourself. So when you do have to have a price adjustment conversation, it's not a surprise. So when you have this weekly report, you're not just educating the seller about what's going on, but you're showing your consistent communication. You're showing how much work you're doing for them, how close you're paying attention. Because let's be real, we're going to make a lot of money when we sell this house. And we're building trust. And this gives you an opportunity in little bite-sized pieces to share what's going on in the market. We can let the sellers know, hey, this is what the buyers are responding to. And this is how your home is positioned compared to the other ones that are on the market. So every conversation you have is like planting a seed, and you're helping the seller to understand the pricing is not based on what they hope or what they need. It's going to be based on what a buyer's willing to pay. So when it's time for the conversation, and I am a little bit old school, I'll own up to that. But I believe a face-to-face meeting is the most ideal situation to be in. You're really showing your seller that you're taking time. You can read their body language. I think you would gain so much more from a face-to-face. Second to Zoom, third a phone call. I would highly discourage against this just being a random meeting. I do not think that is a good approach at all. And I would tell the seller, hey, seller, I'd really like to set up a time and just kind of review where we're at with the process of selling your home. Now, they're not stupid. They know their home isn't sold. They've been reading these little snippets of an update. They've been hearing from you weekly. So there should be nothing to feel uncomfortable about, because there's been a great deal of trust built and they see all of that you're doing. And most sellers will welcome this meeting. Now, when you sit down at the table, my first number one is you need to revisit their motivation, because sometimes they get distracted. And we all know that if a seller has a job transfer or something along those lines, they're highly, highly motivated, right? But if they're just kind of seeing where things are at, that's an indicator on maybe how strong they're going to be with their price strategy. And they may have forgot what happens if the house doesn't sell. What is plan B? And basically, you're just kind of going through and reminding them of their why and maybe the power of their motivation. And I believe that's a really great starting point. Now, moving on, I think you have to lead with data, okay? The market activity is huge, along with neighborhood activity. And again, active, pending, solds, to go through and really talk about that, talk about, CDOMs, how long are these homes taking to sell? How many showings? And this is where I feel like you really need to slow down. Because if you've had 52 people in this home seller and not one of them has made an offer, what does that tell you? And you can review, kind of a summary of the feedback, how many people have been through the open house. And again, not only are you showing all of your efforts that you put into this, but you're also framing it, because at some point they may have to say, wow, there has been 52 people in this home. I wonder why no one's made an offer. But again, this to us is like a second language. We think about it all the time. So we really need to break it down for them when it comes to something like this. I then go into, depending on what's going on in the neighborhood, but we know we're in a high inventory market. But in a high inventory market, it is important to be positioned to be first to sell. Because if these 6 homes maybe have been on the market for a while, and we went through the backlog of buyers, Now we're waiting for new buyers to hit the market. Are we going to be first to sell? Because if we're not, we won't really know how much more time it's going to take. And we need to really talk to them about why that's important. We'll also then talk about like our marketing review. And again, Tiffany and Israel talked a lot about this, so I won't go too deep. But if we're getting a lot of online activity and we're not generating an offer or showings, we're pretty far off. Now, if we're having solid online activity and solid showings but no offer, we might be a little bit off. But that's really going to paint the picture of what's actually happening with this. So for some phrasing, I didn't, there's scripting that I use, and I'm going to go over a few things. And a lot of it really is about phrasing, right? Because every seller is different. Every personality is different. Tiffany is obviously very into data, right? She made that clear. So if Tiffany is my seller, I am going to have as much data as possible. And I'm going to dive very deep into data. If you're talking to someone like me, who's a little bit more of a driver personality, I'm going to want to know all the things that you did to try to get my home to sell before you come at me with price. So at this point in your relationship with your seller, you know them well enough to know what you need to go and be fully prepared. So to start the conversation with the seller, to just keep it very simple, I'd like to review what the market is telling us to ensure your home is positioned for us to get the strongest offer. Now, I'm not telling you anything. The market is telling you, right? Think of me as like the liaison between the broker and the market. And that's going to help because a lot of sellers think their broker just wants to reduce the price so we can hurry up and make our commission. But this is what the market is telling us, and they can't get mad about that, right? I'm there as their advocate. And so to show the seller an example, if I'm going through comparable homes, Mrs. Seller, there are 6 homes in the area that are our direct competition. And 2 weeks ago, 4 of them adjusted their price and 2 generated offers. So be very careful when you're bringing in data that you can offer perspective to the data. Again, some people will get very lost in numbers. I love county breakout session, the MLS monthly breakouts, but you have to be very careful because some individual neighborhoods will tell a much different story. So make sure everything that you're referring to is aligned. Talk to the seller about the level of exposure. All of the things that you've done for marketing. Maybe review some of the online views with what that is. And then you can tell the seller, but unfortunately that hasn't generated an offer. The homes that are selling are positioned more competitively. I recommend we reduce the price to X. And my plan is to relaunch the listing to maximize exposure. And I think that's one of the really most important phrasing. You do need to come out and be bold and give a recommendation. And then you need to let them know what you're going to do. And I would have a very long list. Very similar to if I was taking a listing and I'm showing my seller my marketing plan, I'm basically showing what my relaunch plan is. Because then I think psychologically they feel like they're giving a little as far as what the price is concerned. And then you're showing all of the work that you're going to do as well. And some things I like to say some, different things. We're going to call all the brokers that have shown your property. That's a very proactive approach. We're going to call every open house visitor and we're going to let them know that we're adjusting the price. If you haven't already done so, lean heavily on Zillow Showcase. I really am a huge believer in that. And not a lot of people can offer that. And I think that people like that, right? This fear of missing out. Relaunch completely, back-to-back open houses, door knock the neighborhood, boost the ads. I'm a big believer well, full disclosure, I don't do this, but I teach it. I am a big believer in Facebook Live ads, one before the open house and one after the open house. Because anyone in your sphere that might be interested or know someone, resend the flyers, the postcards, do all the things, don't cut corners. And then also reverse prospecting. That's kind of an old phrase that some of you may not be aware of. But we have a broker here who's been in the business for less than 10 years. She's top 1%. And we did a very similar class to this, and she had a stale listing. And she got it sold with reverse prospecting. And she had never heard about it. But again, this is the market where you're going to pull every tool out of your tool belt. A lot of our brokers, when they do their listing presentation, they talk about the different responsibility of components that cause a home to sell. And you know, a lot of them have a visual of 3 circles, okay? And one circle is going to be the market, and we can't control that. One circle is going to have price and condition. The seller controls that. And the one circle is going to have marketing. And I control that. So if you're setting this expectation from when you take the listing and you show the seller throughout this whole process, all of the things that you're doing, and you're communicating what's going on in the market, now the ball's in their court. And it has nothing to do with you. When you're talking about this relaunch, and I know this might sound silly, but I'm a believer in it. Ask who you're being during this conversation, because they're a little nervous. They may feel like they're losing some money. You need to create the excitement. Really be the encouraging person. I can't promise that this is going to get your home sold, but we're going to do everything. We think this refresh, this repositioning is really going to make a big difference and create some excitement. I think last, the question of when a seller says, you know what, we're just going to hang out at this price and wait and see, right? So you've done all this and you've built it up. And in the end, the seller says, no, I just want to wait and see. And I would respond to a seller to say, you know, seller, I completely understand your position of wanting to wait and see. This is your home. It's your decision. My job is to make sure that you have all the information you need to make the best decision possible. Can I ask what you hope to happen? And most sellers are going to say, well, I hope a buyer will come. Okay, well, that's great, seller. And then I would ask if I could share my concern, right? And again, very similar if you took an overpriced listing from day one, and it's the same type of concern. Explain to them that a home that is overpriced, how that will cause the competition to sell faster. And then also explain to them how time on the market hurts their leverage and what buyers' perceptions will be if this home has been on the market for 128 days. Now, again, we're not there to judge them. I'm a big believer in affirming what they say, repeating and affirming. I'm a big believer in watching tone of voice. We do need to come across as being sensitive. It's sometimes easy for brokers to be like, yeah, we're just going to reduce it $25,000. And they're thinking, do you know how long it would take me to earn that money? So we definitely need to be very compassionate and understanding, but we also have to understand our duty is to help them get this home sold so they can achieve their real estate goals. So that's my 2 cents on a hard conversation.
I love it. Thank you so much, Shai. So many notes taken, I can already tell. I think we're going to go ahead and open it to some Q&A. I am putting 2 links in the chat, and I'll share my screen real quick. Got one more item to share, and then we'll go full Q&A for any speakers that are still here today. But we have this great tips for pricing the home competitively, presenting the CMA. So again, just a quick a whole page full, and maybe not quick, whole page full of tips to help you price and present the home for that pricing. But with that, do we have any questions that we want to ask? Nancy says in the chat, and I think this will be for you, Shai, can you talk a little bit more about reverse prospecting? Newer agent here.
Absolutely. So when we have a buyer, we put criteria into the MLS, and then we will, send them properties and that type of thing. Reverse prospecting, it basically, and if you go into your listing where you go to My Listings and you pull up a listing, it's one of the tabs that you have to click like you were going to print an agent detail of your listing. And basically, it's going to connect you with anyone that has the same criteria saved in the MLS for their buyer. And then you can reach out to the broker directly. And you could say, hey, have you looked at my property? It looks like you have a buyer that's looking for something similar.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just to clarify, that's only in Northwest MLS that it works that way. So whatever your MLS is, right, they're all different. So I would talk to your office leader as well to show you on the individual MLSs how to do it.
Thanks, Israel. I didn't know that.
No, I was going to add that note as well. And there's different ways too that we can pull that information as well. I think Zillow Showcase, that's one of the great ways that not to keep mentioning it, but I know one of our office leaders did this recently. They had the Showcase report. It was showing them the cities or towns that most buyers were looking at, that where they lived. And then they got to do a boost ad to that area of their listing. So there's a different couple ways that you can make that work as well. Any other questions? Feel free to put in the chat or unmute yourself. Well, I think you just did too good of a job, Shai. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you to all of our speakers. If something does come up, feel free to email me, Savannah Scott at johnlscott.com. I'll put it in the chat here. We'll get this recording out along with all of the links that we talked about, tools and resources to help you get that listing sold. Thank you for your time today, and we'll see all of you very soon. Thank you.